What's up, YouTube? I am the Vanilla Nerd, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Marvels, which is famously the MCU's biggest flop to date at time of recording. And that's pretty low bar, so we'll talk about it here in a second. But quick spoiler warning, I want to say spoilers for this entire movie. I'll be spoiling it from start to finish. Also, spoilers for the projects that fit into this movie, namely WandaVision, Miss Marvel, the TV show, and Captain Marvel, the first movie from this franchise, I guess you could say. So yeah, spoilers for those if you haven't seen them already. So, The Marvels. Honestly, this movie was better than I expected, which isn't very surprising considering my expectations were so low they could be considered underground. It's not very hard to clear that very low bar. But it's not without good reason. Like, this movie only made a little over $200 million at the box office, which is incredibly low, especially considering that this movie cost just under $300 million to make. And that's just regular objective budget. That does not include all the marketing that went into this movie, which there wasn't a whole lot, but still doesn't include any of the marketing that went into this movie. So yeah, this movie did not have any return on investment for Marvel's. It was a big financial failure on their part, and that's really unfortunate. But do I think this movie is underrated? Not really. Sorry. I'm sorry to anyone who really likes this movie. I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but it has some major problems. Let's talk about it. Okay, so the biggest problem with the Marvels is the characters. They just aren't developed whatsoever. There's maybe 3 scenes in this entire movie where we actually get some character development and characters talking to each other. And that's really unfortunate and really sad. Like, we learn that Captain Marvel has not gone back to Earth and feels ashamed because she killed the Supreme Intelligence for the Kree Empire, their AI that was leading them, and that led them into this dark ages where literally their sun died, their oceans dried up, and their atmosphere was poisoned. And thus, she feels terrible, but she hasn't done anything about it in 30 years. And therefore, she feels bad and she feels like she can't come home. There's another little character moment with Monica Rambeau, codenamed Photon, which they never actually say or get to in the movie, but that is what she is called in the comics. So there you have it. Anywho, her character says, "Hey, I'm sad that you never came back. You never came back to Earth, and I was always waiting for you." And then she's super understanding, and she's like, "Hey, family's here for you in the good times and the bad. It's okay that you destroyed the Kree, and it wasn't as successful. We still love you. We still think you're great." And that's it. Like, Kamala has a little bit of a moment where it's like, yeah, I guess you aren't as awesome as I thought you were, but you're still cool. And she still likes Captain Marvel. So there's really no growth, change, or improvement. I guess Captain Marvel chooses to be friendly and chooses to accept Kamala and Monica. Yay. But it's just not much. And the villain is just as bland. The villain is a mustache-twirly villain, if ever there was one. Her plan is ridiculous. She has a little scientist underling that tells her, "You can't do that, it's too dangerous." And every time he says that, she says, "I don't care, I'm the boss." And then she does it, and it just doesn't matter. So, yeah. And look, with The Marvels being a plot-driven movie, that's okay. There are many plot-driven movies that I enjoy. Great example that I love to give is Rogue One. Rogue One, I really couldn't care much for the characters in that show. I'm sure there are some people who absolutely love Andor, in part because of his excellent TV show, and that's all good and well. But ultimately, for me, the movie of Rogue One is a plot-driven movie first and foremost. The characters barely matter, but that movie is still so good because that plot is very interesting and very exciting. With The Marvels, the plot is neither interesting nor exciting, nor is it particularly well crafted. There are numerous holes, just numerous, and I'm going to get to them in a second. But first, I just want to say that it doesn't work as a character movie, it doesn't work as a plot movie, so what that leaves us with is just a bunch of spectacle surrounding the setting. And that's okay, the spectacle is fun, but it's not great. I did say I enjoyed this movie, and I did. Like, it was fun to watch these characters kind of go on a little adventure, even though they didn't get that much character development. The action scenes were exciting and entertaining. I was actually surprised at how much I enjoyed them switching places in the middle of fights. They did it really well because it was continually inconsistent. There were plenty of times where they used their powers and it worked. There were plenty of times where they used their powers and they switched. And even though they practiced and kind of got it down, learned how to deal with the switcheroo aspect of it all, they still messed up. Like, at the very end, when they're fighting Darven, they're not perfect at fighting her, despite the fact that they keep switching bodies. And at the very, very end, Captain Marvel switches with Kamala Khan, and Darven threatens to kill Kamala Khan. And because Kamala is the weakest of these three, it's a credible problem issue and stuff. And therefore, it shows off that their switching was never perfect. But to be fair, I don't think you should ever learn how to switch places with people perfectly, at least in general. Not after a couple of days. So I was really impressed with how well the switch worked and how fun it was and how much entertainment it caused, because there were some very funny moments that came from it, whether it was Captain Marvel showing up in the room of a girl who fangirls over her, or Kamala showing up next to a cat that eats people. Both were hilarious scenes, and there were a couple of others that were pretty funny. Getting a little more specific, I am a little weirded out by the Flurkin subplot. Like, for whatever reason, they decided to have the space cat have babies, and then they all ate the people on the crew of this space station, which, honestly, that was kind of funny. I kind of liked how they played this slow classical music as Cat started eating people. That was kind of funny. But it does make me question, like, wait, how does anyone survive in there? How does that work? How does it... But again, the plot is really bad. And it's not that kind of movie. It's not meant to explain things. It just is meant to have fun scenes. And so that was a fun scene. I liked it, even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I think that's the crux of the movie, is that the plot doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it has some very fun scenes in it. That can turn a lot of people off, and personally, I don't hold this movie in very high regard because of that. But all that being said, if you're willing to turn your brain off and just watch some fun action adventure, that's what you have here. There's not particularly great character work. The plot doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if you're down to just sit back and enjoy the ride, you can. Like, this is enjoyable. This movie doesn't do anything so egregious or against character that it makes me hate it. It doesn't do anything that ruins the MCU, but it doesn't do anything great either. It's just bland. It's just forgettable. And that's my big problem with the Marvels. Quick side note that I want to say about the costumes of this movie that really confused me was that midway through the movie, our three characters, Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, Kamala Khan's Miss Marvel, and Monica Rambeau's Photon, all got a wardrobe update. They went to this planet with singing people. It was fun. I kind of like that planet. And then they asked, hey, can you give us a new change of clothes? And so it's like, yay, they get their new costumes. And Photon has a very bright white and black costume that looks really good. Miss Marvel has a very bright costume that's very similar to the one she already had, but, slightly nicer. Who cares? And then Captain Marvel doesn't have a bright one at all. It's a very muted, dark costume that just looks completely different from the other two. And I'm so baffled that they went with this choice. It makes no sense to me. Especially since at the start of the movie, she starts out with a costume that fits right in with these two. It fits exactly with them. It's bright, it's shiny, it's happy. It has the 3/4 sleeves that I like. But then she just, is like, nah, I'm going to stick with this dark muted one. Like, what? Where was that design choice? Why did they not synchronize their costumes? I do not understand that about this movie. But moving on to the plot holes, of which there are many. I'm just going to run through them really fast. Why is Kamala able to use her powers without the bracelets? Like, she saves Monica and Captain Marvel at the end and uses her powers, even though she doesn't have the bracelets. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why did Monica need to close the rift on the other side of the alternate universe tear? Like, couldn't she close it from our side? Why did Aladna not give both atmosphere and water to Hala? Yeah, let's talk about the villain's plan a bit. So Hala, we learn, doesn't have any water. Its atmosphere is poisoned and the sun is dying. And so Dar-Benn, our forgettable mustache twirly villain, who has, admittedly, she does have some motivations. She's not just pure evil. She was there 30 years ago when Captain Marvel destroyed the Supreme Intelligence. So she has beef with Captain Marvel. Okay, she has a motivation, but beyond that, she's a mustache twirly villain, even though she doesn't actually have a mustache. But anyway, let's talk about her plan a little bit. So she decides, I'm going to save Hala by opening up these wormholes that typically transport spaceships across space. I'm going to open them up above planets and steal their natural resources. Which, like, how the wormholes know not to take some resources and to take other resources makes no sense to me. But, here we are. And, like, she takes the atmosphere from one planet, the water from another planet, but wouldn't that also take the atmosphere? I don't know. That was weird. And then she's going to take the energy of the sun from Earth's sun, I guess? And then in her final act of defiance, she rips a hole in space-time to destroy everything. I guess it just, her plan didn't make a whole lot of sense. She didn't make a whole lot of sense, and this was weird. But again, the thing I get at is that that's not this kind of story. This story is not a well-crafted plot. It is not trying to tell an intricate story about how everything works. It's just to have superheroes team up and fight a supervillain. And that's what it does. And it's fun. It's exciting to watch their attacks, and it works. And on that note, I will say, a lot of people give Captain Marvel a lot of beef because she's so powerful. How could anyone stop her? But this movie, I felt like, gave a pretty good explanation for how you could fight her by giving the big bad evil guy an armband that literally absorbed her power. So now all she can really do is punch you and fly, which is, still very powerful, but it's not overpowered. And I think it worked well. There's an argument to be made that Captain Marvel should have just picked up Dar-Benn and pulled her into space where she couldn't breathe, presumably. I don't know if that's within her power set or not, but the powers are also poorly defined in this movie. That's another thing. But I will say, I do want to give some positivity to this movie. I really liked how they made Dar-Benn a credible villain against the Marvels. I think that part at least worked, if not the rest of the movie. Another thing that I thought was cool and that I liked was the after credits scene. Monica wakes up and sees her mom alive and well again and sees Kelsey Grammer's beast. Hooray! And there's even a little mention of Charles, meaning Charles Xavier, by Kelsey Grammer's beast, which is really exciting. And Maria Rambeau is back, and she is binary in this movie, which is fun, and I'm so excited to see her character come back, and I'm hoping she sticks around because unlike a lot of after credit scene, I do believe that this one will be followed up on by the larger MCU because Kelsey Grammer's beast has been confirmed to return in Avengers Doomsday. So that's very exciting. And it makes all the sense in the world that Binary and Monica Rambeau's Photon would be there. I am a little confused why Monica lost her powers or why they felt the need to take those away from her. I feel like she should have kept them. That would have just made more sense, but And Beast even mentions Charles as in Charles Xavier, so Professor X is in this universe. It makes sense that this would be the universe where they're pulling in the X-Men for Avengers Doomsday, but we'll see what happens. Only time can tell. Either way, I really liked this after credit scene, and it does make me excited for future Marvel projects, which is what it's supposed to do. And that's great. In conclusion, is this movie underrated? No, I don't think so. Even though it has an exciting after credits scene, that doesn't make up for a really bland, boring movie where none of your characters are really developed across an hour and 45-minute runtime. There's just really no excuse for that. And hence this movie's going to kind of go down as something forgettable and not really needed. You don't really need to watch it in order to understand the wider MCU. And that's unfortunate, because I did enjoy this movie on a small degree, and I wish that a sequel to Captain Marvel could have been way better handled than what we were given here with the Marvels. All that being said, I am unfortunately glad that this movie bombed as hard as it did. Marvel needed a wake-up call with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and the Marvels flopping so bad to convince them to start producing better movies. We, the fans, have been saying it for years. The quality of these superhero movies is going down. You need to get it back up. You need to get it better. And Marvel has been pushing back and pushing back and pushing back. And so finally, with the colossal failure of this and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, they finally realized, okay, we need to stop. And they did a hiatus in 2004 where they only released one movie. And that was Deadpool and Wolverine. And now they've started to get back on top with better quality movies in the Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four: First Steps. I think both those movies were way better than most of Phase 4 and 5, and way better than this movie, at least. So it's unfortunate this movie had to fail in order for other movies to succeed, but I'm okay with it if this movie is as bland and as forgettable as it is. So yeah, that's my review of The Marvels.